The Poor People's Campaign was planning for a massive march on Washington on June 20th. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic intervened, and now the event will have to be a virtual gathering. We urge you to register for this event by going to the Poor People's Campaign website. Just Google Poor People's Campaign. It's free to attend, but the Poor People's Campaign could really use your financial support too. So I hope you will be as generous as you're able in supporting it. Want to thank you, and I'd like to do a little screen share of a flyer for the June 20th event. Okay, if you can see that. It just gives you a little bit of information about that. It'll be the largest digital gathering in the nation's history of the poor and dispossessed and impacted. So we can log into it at 3 p.m. on the West Coast. So I hope you will all consider doing that. So thank you very much for letting me address your congregation today with this message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Phillips. We really appreciate you coming today and sharing your information with us, especially since I know you have to Zoom off to your own service. And I also just want to mention to the group that AJ is planning to incorporate some of the Poor People's Campaign mission in the service that's coming up later in June. So now, if everyone would like to, I know we don't usually do this, but if you feel like you're tired of sitting, feel free to stand up as we usually do in our regular service and join with us all for our opening hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love Is This? And now we will be enjoying a story from our very special Adrienne Dills.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Adrienne.
So I would like to share a story this morning about a girl named Jamie. Jamie was falling asleep in class. The heat was on and nothing could keep her awake. This was the first time she had been warm in 3 days since the last time she was at school, if you don't count when she was playing outside or walking up and down the stairs to keep the chill out of her bones. They had gone to a McDonald's one day, but the manager had kept the door open, so it wasn't warm in there either. Jamie thinks her teacher knows, and that's why he doesn't wake her up after he had tapped on her desk the first time she nodded off. Jamie's half listening to the discussion, and then it must have been an hour later the bell rang for recess. Jamie's teacher looked up from his desk and nodded at her. "Stay put," he said kindly before he turned back to his paperwork. Jamie missed recess in lieu of a nap. Jamie's family was staying in a big, old, broken-down house with 4 other families. They did something called rationing the heat. Jamie's dad explained that they could only keep the heat very low because otherwise the bill would be too high to pay. The windows leaked like crazy, so it was never very warm in the house. Still, it was better than sleeping in the car, which they had done for a few weeks before they moved into this house. Cars are too stuffy, too hot, or too cold. They are never just right, and there was almost no room in there anyway. Plus, no proper bathroom. Can you imagine? Those weeks, Jamie would wait to go potty until she got to school, and that caused her some tummy troubles. The school nurse was very clear. You have to go to the bathroom when your body tells you to. Then Jamie had asked, "But what if there isn't a bathroom?" And the nurse looked at her like she was crazy. But Jamie wasn't crazy. There really was no bathroom sometimes. Jamie felt weird about that, and she hadn't said anything to her parents or to her friends. After recess, when everyone was back in class, Jamie was able to pay attention. She eats breakfast at school, so her tummy wasn't rumbling either. Jamie loved school because there was food and warmth and nice teachers. She also hated school because she felt weird that she couldn't invite anyone to a birthday party, and because the nurse looked at her funny when she'd asked about bathrooms. Jamie's grades aren't so good either. It's hard to pay attention when you haven't slept much, or when you're worried about sleeping in the car. Maybe one of her classmates would have walked by and recognized her. The horror! Maybe someday Jamie would be a normal kid and have a regular house again. She hoped that nobody found out her secret before that happened. She would feel so embarrassed if people knew she was living with strangers. As far as anyone knew, except maybe her teacher, Jamie was just a bit more tired and hungry than your average kid. She just told people, "Maybe I'm growing," because that's what adults say when kids are sleepy and hungry. But Jamie knew. She felt like the only kid who didn't have a house. Mom said that wherever they were together, that was their home. And at least that much was true. I wonder what Jamie would think if she knew she wasn't alone. About 1.3 million American children experienced homelessness at some point in 2019. That's a lot of kids. We might have an idea about homeless people sleeping on a sidewalk, but homeless women and children are usually not on the street like that. They might be couch surfing with friends for a long time, living in a car or an RV, temporarily sharing a house with other families, staying at a hotel for some time, or living at a shelter. Families struggling with housing might go without utilities like electricity or heat for periods of time, and they might have trouble with basic tasks like doing laundry or cooking. Think about mac and cheese. Even if you can get your hands on a box of mac and cheese pretty easily, how would you cook it if you didn't have a stove? Sometimes school is the only place to get a hot meal. It is important to be aware that things we often take for granted might not be available to other kids at school or to our coworkers, or that person at the store who could clearly use a hot shower. For this reason, we should never tease people or avoid them because of where they live or if they seem to need basic necessities like food and clothing. This is one way that we treat everyone with dignity as worthwhile which is what our first UU principle is all about. There are a lot of leaders and groups who are working to make housing more available to families and trying to fix some of the problems that cause homelessness in the first place. That is really good news. As we practice seeing each person's worth and dignity, regardless of their living situation, Meg would like to share a song with us about how each of us is beautiful.
Wouldn't it be great if we could always see the beauty inside of people all the time, no matter what they look like on the outside? This is a really special song that I've loved for years. It's called See Me Beautiful by Red Grammer. See me beautiful, look for the best in me. It's all I really am and all I want to be. It may take some time, it may be hard to find, but see me beautiful. See me beautiful each and every day. Could you take the chance? Could you find a way to see me shining through in everything I do and see me beautiful? Yeah, that chokes me up. All right, our pastoral reading today comes to us from Richard Gilbert, and it's an invitation to be gentle with one another. Be gentle with one another. It is a cry from the lives of people battered by thoughtless words and brutal deeds. It comes from the lips of those who speak them and the lives of those who do them. Who of us can look inside another and know what is there, of hope and hurt, of promise and pain? Who can know from what faraway places each has come, or to what far places each may hope to go? Our lives are like fragile eggs. They crack and the substance escapes. Handle with care. Handle with exceedingly tender care, for there are human beings within, human beings as vulnerable as we are, who feel as we feel, who hurt as we hurt. Life is too transient to be cruel with one another. It's too short for thoughtlessness, too brief for hurting. Life is long enough for caring. It is lasting enough for sharing, precious enough for love. So be gentle with one another. Each Sunday, we set aside time to reflect on the joys and sorrows in our world, in our country, our community, and in the personal lives of this gathered community. This is kind of a tough week to do this, and this is a week when we would certainly benefit from having AJ with us. But I do want to mention some very important concerns that are going on right now in our country. In this time of anger and fear and unrest in our country following the murder of George Floyd by once again white police officers, may we stridently do our part to advocate for change and enlighten our fellow citizens about the causes and conditions that continue to plague our racist society. May we be mindful and compassionate as we navigate the COVID pandemic, showing compassion for those who suffer with illness, loss of loved ones, and fear as cases continue to rise in our community in recent weeks. And among the many social inequities our country struggles with, homelessness among our most vulnerable citizens, including youth, families, seniors, persons of color, and those struggling with health and substance issues, are so very deserving of our attention and compassion today. And I would like to share from our community some joys and sorrows. Ken and Amy Evans share a joy today. Their son Jake recently graduated with a degree in oceanography, and he got himself a job on a fishing vessel observing with NOAA in Alaska. He's very excited to start the next chapter of his life, and congratulations to Jake. And then some sorrows and concerns have also been shared from our members. Larry Smith shares that his house suffered a fire on Tuesday. No one was hurt. It was a small fire, but it brought a large amount of aggravation. And we're glad you're well, Larry. And then Janine would like to share that her cousin Brian now needs another procedure. He requires a brain shunt and will hopefully only be back in the ICU for 1 day. And she's asking for us to please think good thoughts for him. And sadly, Tom and Mary Piette mourned the loss last week of Mary's mother, Mary Ellen Lynch, who died of natural causes at the age of 95. So our thoughts and sympathy are with you, Mary and Tom. And now I would like to invite everyone to just take a moment of silent reflection while we enjoy the pastoral hymn, which is number 127, Can I See Another's Woe? I think for most people, walking past a homeless person or a panhandler is an uncomfortable experience. This was certainly the case for me growing up in the New York City area, where we passed homeless people all the time. When I asked my parents if we could give them money, I was told no, they will only buy alcohol with it. Pay no attention to them. Over the years, I kind of adopted this attitude from my family, but I never felt like I was wearing comfortable skin. Once, as an adolescent, while I was cruising the Upper West Side with my middle school friends, we were all members of the same choir, we stopped to sing Christmas carols in choral harmony with a guy on the street who had an open instrument case, and he appeared to be homeless. And we gathered around him and sang songs, and we pulled in some big bucks for him. And afterwards, we had quite a nice conversation. I remember that this was the first time I had any meaningful interaction with a homeless person, and I remember being surprised that he was so nice. As a young adult living in San Francisco, I handed out lots of dollars while I was walking around, but I usually didn't stop to talk to people. I never felt quite comfortable giving so little of myself or so little out of my wallet. When I was raising kids, we often spent Thanksgiving serving the community meal at the fairgrounds. Some, but not all of the folks enjoying the community meal were homeless, and again, mostly we were just serving, not really talking and sharing. Homelessness is a very visible social problem in our cities and towns all across America. As many as 3.5 million Americans are homeless, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and 24% of them live right here in California, followed by New York at 17% and Texas and Florida at 5% of the total homelessness in our county, or in our country. So overwhelmingly, California is I was going to say home to, but California has most homeless in the whole nation. An estimated 700,000 youth with no parent are homeless. The rate of homelessness in veterans, Black families is far above the national average for the general population, and the rates of homelessness in the United States are higher than other Western countries. This is a social disease that our country has grappled with since the Great Depression in the 1930s and perhaps earlier. With trends of urbanization throughout the 20th century and increasing inequality in recent decades, this social disease has worsened, and factors contributing to homelessness are relentlessly persistent. Late in my nursing career, I landed back in public health, and I had an unexpected opportunity to work with those people experiencing homelessness. We have a 100-bed shelter in the DeWitt campus run by the Gathering Inn, which is a nonprofit organization working in collaboration with Placer County. And I was asked to go there a few times each week and to assess the medical needs of the shelter guests, as they were referred to, and to build trust, which was kind of a vague assignment. I had no background, no skills, no expertise in this field. Mostly I ended up dispensing nursing advice, assisting with medicine reconciliation, dressing wounds, checking blood sugars and blood pressures, and help people navigate insurance and keeping medical appointments, that sort of thing. But mostly, I think the only really valuable thing that I do at the shelter is just to be kind and show interest in their well-being. It's been an honor and a joy to learn more about the systemic challenges of homeless folks and to get to know some of our homeless in our community. And by the way, a recent survey in Placer County demonstrated that our homeless population is overwhelmingly local, born, raised, and educated right here in Placer County. Over the last 6 years, I've spent time there assisting with various health things, but I've done some talking, lots of listening, and I've heard lots of stories. The reason people end up in a shelter or living rough, which we refer to as out unsheltered out in the wild, the reasons are many, and no doubt you have heard about them. No doubt you have heard of many of them, such as the high cost of housing, mental health and substance issues, domestic violence, joblessness, poor credit, or a criminal record, just to name a few. But the stories are always complex, and they always engender sympathy and compassion. One thing that I was surprised to learn is that no matter what health issue, even cancer, legal problems, financial problems, unemployment challenges, whatever people are struggling with, the thing that is most important to them and the thing that allows them to make progress on other challenges in their life is stable housing. Unfortunately, affordable housing is just not available, and even if it was, many of the shelter guests and those living rough or unsheltered, they need lots of support to get themselves situated in housing and to stay housed. And Jeff is going to talk a little bit later about the very successful whole person care program that he heads up at Placer County, which has had a lot of success assisting people into stable housing. When I walk around Placer County, mostly in shopping areas and in the DeWitt campus where I work, I stop and talk with folks all the time, those homeless folks that I know and those that I don't know. I ask about how their day is going, if they got their bike fixed, and how their dog is doing, and if they know about all the resources available to them in the area. Sometimes they don't, and I give them information about access to the shelter, food bank, social and medical services that are available in the county. Sometimes I provide transportation or a sandwich, and sometimes, but rarely, cash, as I don't want to encourage panhandling. Unlike when I was younger, I'm not uncomfortable talking with people experiencing homelessness, but as with anything, once you step outside your comfort zone and experience something new, it becomes less difficult. The other day, I sat on a bench outside of Walgreens with a man for a few minutes, and we had a lovely conversation about the color green. He seemed absolutely delighted to have been acknowledged, as opposed to having been walked by once again with no eye contact. Patty, our music director, suggested that I share a recent experience that she had. She had an unexpected interaction with a homeless person at the gas station, and this person asked if he could use her cell phone to call a hospitalized loved one. While she was understandably reluctant to hand over her cell phone, once the call was made, she witnessed a beautiful conversation between devoted, loving partners. And her phone was not even snatched as she had feared. Way to go, Patty. These are just a couple of examples of how a simple recognition of the human being who happens to be experiencing homelessness can foster humanity in all of us. To be sure, not all persons experiencing homelessness are safe or easy to talk with. Homeless persons may seem scary to us. They are different, sometimes not so clean. Perhaps they have a criminal record or they are on drugs. But perhaps they are not so different at all. Just people who have experienced hardship that has led them to their current homelessness. I have observed great generosity and compassion in the homeless population. They will pool their last cent to pay for a vet bill for someone's pet. They stuff others into their cars and trucks when the weather is bad, and they share their food and, yes, sometimes their cigarettes and their substances. Another thing that I have learned working with those experiencing homelessness is that they are extremely grateful for any small thing that you do for them. Often just a smile or a wave or a brief conversation to validate their humanity is such a welcome gift. So thank you.
Generosity is a spiritual practice of this congregation. When we offer our time, our talents, and our treasure, we deepen our engagement and become part of building the beloved community together. As part of our ethic of generosity, we also split our collection plate with a local community organization aligned with our values. This month, the Share the Plate recipient is Stand Up Placer. Stand Up Placer is an organization which firmly believes that everyone deserves to live a life free from violence. They are saving lives by empowering survivors and educating communities to stand up to domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. To support Stand Up Placer and SFUU today, you can follow the link in the chat or navigate to our website mysfuu.org and click Give to SFUU. Here you can donate to SFUU at any time for our Share the Plate recipient or directly to SFUU to pay your pledge. As always, you may mail donations or pledges directly to the church at our 190 Finley Street address. The offertory today is Either or Both of Us, or Either or Both of Me by Phoebe Snow. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
The song I would like to share with you today is a Phoebe Snow song called Either or Both of Me. And I chose this song because it's really about vulnerabilities. And I just want to say that I'm constantly amazed and awe-inspired by the willingness of this community to share vulnerabilities and thereby strengthen us all. So here goes. Sometimes these hands are so clumsy that I drop things and people laugh. Sometimes these hands are so graceful I can see them signing autographs. What I want to know from you, when you hear my plea, do you like or love either or both of me? Do you like or love either or both of me? Sometimes this face looks so funny that I hide it behind a book. Sometimes this face has so much class that I just have to sneak a second look. Sometimes this life feels so empty that I've become afraid. Then I remember you're in it, and I think that I might still have it made. What I want to know from you, when you hear my plea, do you like or love either or both of me? Do you like or love either or both of me? Do you like or love either or both of me? Do you like or love either or both of me?
Thank you, Mag. That was great. I'm really grateful to be doing the service this morning with Mag, who is lovingly known as Nurse Mag by the guests and providers at the Auburn Shelter. She's a rock star and she does amazing work in our community. I moved to the area just over 3 years ago to take a position at Placer County Public Health to start up the Whole Person Care program. This is a pilot program designed to test local initiatives that serve high-need individuals like those facing chronic homelessness. I'm sure you don't need the manager of a local homeless services program to tell you that there is a growing homelessness epidemic in the United States, California, and Placer County. There are hundreds of thousands of people in America that are homeless at any given time, and we can see them almost anywhere we go. I'll start today by telling you a little about the Whole Person Care program, sharing one of our client stories, and finish by sharing some of the things that we can do to help end homelessness. My program has case managers, licensed counselors, housing coordinators, and nurses that provide intensive client-centered services to the chronically homeless. We go out to homeless shelters, encampments, or wherever people are to provide them essential services. We do help them to find and procure housing, but we are willing and able to help them with any reasonable life goals that they have. Sometimes they have serious medical issues that need attention. Sometimes they have substance use or mental health issues. Many times they want to reconcile with family and build healthy relationships. But almost always they want help with housing. The underlying service model that we use is called Housing First. Historically, there has been a belief that to help the homeless, you need to get substance use services or mental health services to them first so that they can manage housing once they've taken care of all of their problems. The problem with that is when you don't have housing, nothing else is really a priority. Housing First says that we put you in housing before anything else, and then you'll be able to focus on any other problems or issues that you have. Housing First has been shown to save money as it costs much less to house someone and provide services than it does to police, incarcerate, and provide emergency medical services to the same population. An important piece of Housing First model is permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing provides a place to live and on-site services tailored to client needs. We're going to take a couple minutes to hear Angel's story. Angel is an individual who is enrolled in our Whole Person Care program.
My name is Angel, and I live here in Roseville. We were homeless for 5 months, here in Roseville. I didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to keep Otis alive in these streets. He has stage 4 cancer. Many struggles being homeless. We've seen things that you wouldn't want to see. We've heard things you wouldn't want to hear. And I wanted a new beginning. I wanted to be the woman that my father challenged me to be. So I got to Roseville and followed all his steps. I was contacted by Whole Person Care. I had no idea who they were, where they came from, or what they were all about. But I knew that they were there to help me, because when I sat at 7-Eleven for 5 months, and the day they came and sat with me, 2 Sams, they're both named Sam, the angel finally came down. So they're sitting on the sidewalk with me, and we're filling out paperwork for me, and I'm like, they do have something better for me. This is really going to happen. And they were so dedicated, I didn't know what to do. And it was all because I chose to want to step forward and help myself, and there was somebody willing to help me if I was willing to help myself. They've helped me pay my rent. They've helped me, I mean, look what they've done with this is all the furniture that's been given to me because of them. They have given me rides to where I need to go. They are there every phone call of the day, every step. I'm struggling, I'm stuck. Ring, ring, they're there. They help me pay off evictions. They help me erase evictions. They help me do things that you wouldn't imagine they will do for somebody in my position. My favorite thing about living here is the peace, the harmony, the fact that I'm no longer homeless. There's not enough credit I can give to in-home person care to where I am today. You know what I mean? They're the reason of the season. They're the reason that you can get out of that cold and be here. But you got to be willing to want it for yourself, because they can't force you. They can't control you. They can only control the situation. But if you're willing to go with the situation, this is where you can be. And this is for anybody. Anybody can do this, anybody. And it was like, Whole Person Care was my miracle after Otis's miracle. We couldn't be more than grateful. We're very grateful.
For me, I feel really grateful to participate in a program like this. To date, we've helped provide permanent housing to over 150 people in Placer County, and we're still working on it. And I hope that we can see that Housing First is a great way to help end homelessness. But why do we have such a problem with homelessness in America in the first place? In my position, it's one of the most common questions I get. Why are there so many homeless people? Or what are the reasons for homelessness? People often already have an answer in mind, and I've never seen anyone expect the answer that I give. They're usually thinking about something like, it's substance use, it's mental health problems, the high cost of housing, criminal behaviors, etc., etc. No doubt that those are serious issues, but in my mind, that's not why we have such a serious homelessness problem. We have a homelessness epidemic because America is a selfish society. Our culture is based on individualism run rampant. We are the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. We have the resources to end homelessness, and we could do it. Unfortunately, other people's problems are often not seen as a priority in a me-first culture. We have seen a lot of that attitude in the past couple weeks, as there has been such fierce opposition to people protesting George Floyd's murder, racism, and police brutality. Too many blame the victims, and because they themselves don't suffer the negative consequences of racism so directly, they don't see these issues as a problem. When it comes to homelessness, it's not really that different than what's happening with police brutality and racism. I wonder how much people really are interested in doing something about it if it's not something that affects them directly. Let's think about ourselves and our own financial situation. How many of us have a bigger house than we need? Extra bedrooms? How many of us have much more property than we need? How much disposable income and savings do we have? Unitarian Universalists as a community often have much more resources than the general population. Maybe you're familiar with the story of the young man who wanted to know what he needed to get into heaven, so he went to Jesus to talk to him about it. He went to Jesus and asked him, "What do I need to get eternal life?" Jesus told him, "Sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven." When the young man heard this, he went away sad because he had great wealth. I'm not asking you to sell everything you have and give it to the poor. The last person that asked that, they crucified him. But I do ask that each of us does a serious self-examination about what we can do to help end racism and the subjugation of the poor. I believe that kind of self-examination will find that most of us can be much more financially generous to people and organizations that help produce social justice. If we can't do more financially, then maybe we'd be able to do more volunteer work. Many times we could do both. Unitarian Universalists are a caring people dedicated to social justice. In fact, it's one of the things that unites us as a faith community. Now, more than ever, we are being called to be our best selves, to give of ourselves and our resources like never before, to bring about the justice that our society so desperately needs.
Now we're going to have our closing hymn, which is number 1008 from the Teal hymnal, "When My Heart is in a Holy Place." And this might be a great one to stand up for.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the will
Thank you, Patty. And now, as we close our service today with a prayer for compassion from Elizabeth Tarbox, let us seek to make another's well-being the object of our concern. Let us seek to be present to another's pain, to bathe another's wounds, to hear another's sadness, celebrate another's success, and allow the other story to change our own. In taking care of another, we are all cared for. And now, raise your hands, or if you're with your loved ones at home, join hands as we say our closing words. As we go forth, may we carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Blessed be, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.